name is Cindy Walton, and today we're going to be discussing integration for our oral history presentation. And we're going to be introducing Michael and Barbara Cary. Well, before we get into your experiences in integration, I would love to hear a little bit about you guys and introduce yourselves to everyone.
My name is Barbara Cary, and this is my husband, Michael Cary. I've lived in Fluvanna County all of my life, and we have two sons, Michael Cary and Adrian Cary, and we have 5 beautiful grandchildren.
That's wonderful. And you, Michael?
She said everything I mean, as far as the introduction.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Cary Sr. I moved to Virginia with my parents when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I've been in the county ever since. Went to Fluvanna County High School, worked for Dominion Power for 36 years, and I'm here today.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us about how you moved to Fluvanna, and tell us a little bit more about how integration impacted your school life.
Well, when I moved from New York to Virginia with my parents, they came because my aunt wanted my mother to help her run a store, and that's why my parents moved back to Virginia. Actually, I went to an all-white school when I was in New York. So for me to make the transition as far as integration was concerned, it really wasn't that bad for me. You know, I mean, I might have had a few bumps in the road here and there and stuff, you know, but it was pretty good as far as I'm concerned, you know.
So tell me a little bit about your history of school. So you were up in New York until what age, and then you went to what school?
I think I went to Fluvanna County High School when I was actually 13 or 14 maybe. But I went to elementary school at Central Elementary School, which was an all-black school from the very beginning, which was a big experience for me because now I'm going to an all-black school. So the transition for me to go to Fluvanna County High School wasn't that difficult as far as me getting along with the white students. I was able to do that fairly well. So.
Now, how did you react when you heard that you had to?
I was upset because I wanted to go to school with my friends, you know, which would have been at S.C. Abrams High School. But I didn't have a choice. My mother and father felt that I would have a better learning curve, education, by going to Fluvanna High School versus going to Abrams High School, because I guess they figured I'd probably be playing and having a good time and not really being educated properly. So they made the choice for me.
And tell us about your experience in school.
Pretty much the same thing. My grandparents raised me, and in the 6th grade, that's when I went to Fort Union Elementary School. And so I didn't have a choice in the matter. They said that's what I was going to do, and the same reason for better education. So the experience wasn't really bad. It was just I didn't know what to expect, and it was when the first day of school is not like, you know, people were embracing you and said, "Oh, welcome," and nothing like that. So it was kind of like, I don't know, kind of standoffish kind of type thing.
It's a feeling out process.
Yeah,
basically.
Pretty much like that. Yeah. So it was just an adjustment period for me and the other kids.
And how many black students were there?
In my class, I was the only one.
The only black. And how did that make you feel?
Strange. Strange. It was another class, and there was some black students in that, but I was in a class with Mrs. Melton. So I was only the only black student in that class.
And did she call on you much, or?
No more than any other kids. You know, it's not a situation that I was picked on or anything like that. It was just like a regular day at school. She didn't make any difference in anything. She didn't like try to introduce me to the class or anything like that to make me feel like I was, you know, all by myself or anything like that. So it was just like a typical day.
And did you have white and black friends, or just black friends?
In this classroom, when integration started, it was all white. So I didn't have, like I said, nobody came up and said, well, hi, how are you, or anything like that. So it took a while to get adjusted.
Okay.
But no close friends or anything like that.
And Michael, tell us about how integration started for you. Like, where were you, what time period, and what grade you were in?
Started in the 8th grade. And I was one of the first black students to go to Fluvanna County High School. I can't really remember my first day. We're talking 50 years or better. And so, you know, but it was pretty much like my wife is saying. I mean, you know, nothing special as far as the introduction and being treated any differently. You know, it was just a matter of kind of just working your way through, you know. And then I guess too, probably, but we had a physical ed class, and you know, now you're playing sports, and you know, everybody's kind of competing, and you know, so forth and so on and stuff. So I guess probably to the point that when they find out that you're kind of talented, they kind of grasp to you a little bit, well, vice versa and stuff, you know. So that was pretty much how it was for me. Until they had the tryout for the football team, for the JV football team, and I went up for that, and I got cut in my first year. And then the coach came back to me afterwards after he felt like he had made a mistake by cutting me and telling me to come back the following year, which I did, and I made the team, and I actually started and stuff. So.
But didn't he tell you that he shouldn't have cut you?
He
from
did
the
tell
team?
me that. He did. Yep.
And how did that make you feel about that?
It made me feel, that right there was a downer. It was, because I mean, I felt that, you know, I was just as good. Well, actually I was better, to be honest. You know, but I guess it was just how the system was, you know. My parents weren't that notable in the county versus a lot of the white kids that, you know, their parents were this and that, whatever. And
part of the booster club.
and part of the booster club, of course. At that particular time, we didn't know what a booster club was. You know.
Or a group.
Right. Yep.
Special group.
Until I guess that's how I kind of basically worked my way through the system. You know, I'm gonna call it a system. So when you're talented at doing something, people kind of gravitate to you a little bit. And so that's kind of how I kind of worked out for me with getting along with the guys. And, you know, now I'm kind of falling in place. So that part of it, as far as the transition was concerned, of me meeting people, I kind of met people that way. You know, so now they want to know, who are you and where'd you come from, where do you live, you know, that sort of thing, you know.
So that's more how people welcomed you, was because you played sports.
Basically.
They were more interested in getting to know you as a
Right.
person. And what sports did you play?
I played football, basketball, and baseball when I was at Fluvanna.
And that was every year except for the first year when
Right.
they didn't allow
Yep.
you on the team.
Actually, I was the first black baseball player to go to play at Fluvanna High School. I had my ups and downs there. You know, I had name calling there and stuff, you know, but that was from the older students and stuff because I was young. Okay, you know. So I guess they didn't want me to interfere with, you know, talent or no talent and stuff, you know. I guess they felt that they were supposed to come before I was, you know. But after that, I mean, after they graduated and, you know, as you continue to go up the ladder, then your name kind of sticks out more then, and, so that's how it worked for me.
So what were they calling you? You said because of it was a football player.
I was a professional football player that played for the Green Bay Packers back in the day. His name was Bob Jeter. Well, for some reason or another, the white students, guys, decided they want to call me Cheetah instead of Jeter. Okay. So that kind of stuck with me for a little while, which I didn't really like that, but I mean, it wasn't a whole lot I could do about it either. I was kind of outnumbered. So, so I had to live with that.
And what was your experiences like in high school? Were you involved in any sports or any extracurricular activities?
No, I wasn't. I guess I was like a plain Jane. So I just went to the game. So I wasn't a cheerleader or anything like that.
Well, then how did you become a homecoming queen?
Oh, okay. I guess people liked me enough that I had enough votes for blacks and whites to become the homecoming queen.
And that's pretty exciting and pretty monumental.
Oh, yeah, I was excited. It was very nice.
And let's also talk about the bus rides. We've talked about that a little bit. What was it like on the buses?
It was some name calling on the bus from the older students also, which was very prejudiced, because now we're riding pretty much their bus. Okay, I don't think that they really thought a lot of that, but that's just how it was. So we just had to make the best of it.
So did you guys sit together, separately?
We sat separately. Yep.
And from some of the other folks that we talked to that was on the bus and everything, and they were talking about how, the name calling, being called the N-word and things like that, and how the white kids would throw paper and spitballs and stuff like that was going on the bus.
And
But that was only from older ones. Probably like the seniors
Yeah.
that were riding the bus, something like that.
would you contribute that to because they weren't used to having any of the blacks? It was always an all-white school, and then was it harder for them?
That was just the way they were raised.
Right. Yep.
If you taught that to be prejudiced, to have racism, in your home, that's how you're going to behave. And that's how they behaved until they realized that, okay, this is not getting anywhere.
Yep.
That we are merging and people are getting along.
And how about the teachers? Were there any black teachers, white teachers? What was that like?
It was a black history teacher and a black shorthand teacher, Mrs. Monroe.
Yeah, typing and doing
Shorthand, right. Mrs. Monroe was their typing and shorthand teacher, and Mr. Benford was their history teacher. And it was a black janitor that was there also.
His name was Victor.
Right.
And everybody was crazy about
Everybody
Victor,
was crazy about
black and white.
Right, yep.
So at that time, it wasn't, a lot of diversity with the teachers.
The Fluvanna High School football team, when I was a senior in school, actually pulled that school closer together than what it really was. Because now, winning is everything. I don't care what you do, okay? And so now when you have the blacks and the whites together, especially on this team and stuff, and a whole lot of that came from the head coach, which was Phil Browning, okay? Phil Browning actually, his first decided that he wanted to take his team to a camp for a week and for us just to be together, just as a team, away from everybody. And that kind of formed this bond.
What year was that?
This was in 1971.
What class were you of?
I was a senior then.
You were a senior, okay.
Right.
What was your senior year?
Right, it was my
And what was
senior year.
camp like?
Camp was fun, and it was grueling, okay? Because it was 2-a-day practice, it was hot, but we still had a good time. and especially after football practice. Everybody just got together and just really had a blast. You know, I mean, now you're really finding out about this person and that person. Not only that, see, Coach Browning came up with the brilliant idea, but we're not just going to have, because we got white players and black players, so the white players are here and the black players are there. No, he didn't do that. He actually split everybody up. So, you know, you were a black player for white player, you know, you run together and stuff. You bunk together. That's what it was. They were bunkers. And I guess that kind of just pulled things together also, because now you're actually hearing what this person is, what they're really about, okay, and what you're really about, and you know, the things that you like, the things that you don't like, and you're all pulling for a common goal, and that's to win, you know. And so I think that's kind of how it really kind of got this, to me, the school really together, as far as win this championship, that we were on a championship run. That's what it was.
So what was the football season like that year?
Actually, we lost that very first game. And then we went on to win, I think, 12 games in a row.
Wow.
And we played in the very first state championship that the high school football league had. And we lost that game 7-6. Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah. But that really helped to get the community.
It did. Yeah, it
supporting
did. Right, because I mean, I had a lot of white parents coming up to me, you know, during the week or after games, and I mean, you know, just sit there and just talk to you, you know, and which was enjoyable, you know. Yep. And you know, now you have your white friends coming to your house and socializing and having a good time. We're going out together and we're all having fun, and you know, so that turned out to be very well.
Now, what was it like? Were there any, for dating and socializing, were there any interracial relationships during school?
Little to none. It was the ones that were probably doing it were in the closet. You know, they didn't come out to be public about it. It was one couple that really was, and they didn't really. No one actually said a lot to them, because they weren't going to say anything to the guy, and they weren't going to say nothing to the girl. Okay, that's just how hardcore they really were. Okay, but they happened to bond together, and that's the way they were. Okay.
Yep, they had a relationship.
They did.
And they didn't care what people thought.
Not at all. They didn't care what anybody said, and that was a big thing too, because I guess that kind of broke the ice as far as the whites and the blacks actually now socializing more with one another. Okay.
And how did the parents feel about that? What was their take on integration and what was going on with the schools?
I guess the parents were probably the same way as our parents when it first started. You know, they didn't know exactly how this was going to turn out, what was going to come out of it and stuff, but they knew that this is the way it was, so you have to accept this, you know. So that's pretty much what they did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now in the town, when you guys socialized, what was the town like back then? What did you guys do after school? And
we didn't do a whole lot after school. I mean, because for one, for us, we had, you know, we were on an athletic bus. The athletic bus would only take you to a certain spot and drop you off. Then you had to walk home the rest of the way, and that's a nice little walk. Okay. Then when you do this every day, you know.
Didn't have time for much else.
No, you didn't. No.
Yeah. What about the weekends?
I think the weekends might have been a little bit differently. After this championship football team and stuff, you know, brought, like I said, things closer together. It was probably more mingling back and forth then. I mean, it wasn't like we had a place to go and really hang out at that particular time, you know. Versus now, I mean, you know, you see kids anywhere.
Yes, I have a sister. Her name is Francine, and she started with integration just like we did. And I really don't remember any bad situations that she went through either.
So what's really interesting is that, you both really had a pretty smooth transition during that time, and you kind of both feel, from what I'm gathering, is that it's because you knew these people beforehand. You knew both whites and blacks, and had existing relationships, and that's part of what made it easy.
He did,
Yeah.
but I did not.
Well, like I'm saying, I think that this coach that I'm telling you about, Coach Browning, at the time, Coach Browning came from Pocosins, I think.
Yeah.
And so I guess when he came from where he came from, the Fluvanna, it might have been different for him. The things that he actually did in this county with the students and the student athletes and stuff, he paid big dividends. Coach Brandon would let you, he had an old car, and we drove that car all over the county. And we had a blast. We really did. The blacks and the whites, He did this himself, okay? And people kind of gravitated to that, when they see me driving Coach Browning's car or whatever it may be. I mean, it's like, oh, that's Michael driving Coach Browning's car, that sort of thing. I can remember the year we had the banquet after the season was over with. I didn't have a way to get there, and one of my best friends, a white guy, Pierce Zillow, he let me drive his car, okay, because my parents were working swing shift on the job that they were working. We didn't have one car, okay. So he actually let me drive his car. He drove his parents' car, and so I thought that was great,
That was very supportive.
That was very supportive.
Well, I want to go back and talk about the two teachers at Fork Union at the time. And I was saying Mrs. Melton, I can't think of her first name all these years, but she was stern, no nonsense type teacher, which I appreciated, and didn't make any difference in the color of your skin. And the other teacher that I had was Mrs. Jones, and she was the dainty little teacher, always dressed nice and wearing high heels. And years later, I saw her, and I introduced myself to her, and she said, "Oh, I hope I treated you nice." And I said, "Yes, you did."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That is great. Now, were there any school dances or any other kind of social events that happened?
I'm pretty sure it was. I don't remember.
Just
Don't have
pretty,
any
just pretty much the prom,
And we look
What was-
forward to that.
What was
Yeah.
the prom like?
It was great.
Yeah,
You got
it
to
was.
dress up and go out and have a good time.
right? Yeah.
And did the blacks stay on one section and the whites on another, or were there?
I don't think so.
I don't think so
I
either.
don't remember
Yeah. I mean, it might have been a few little groups, like that and stuff, but overall, I don't think so. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you might want to speak about?
Well, we've talked about air transition, but I did want to bring up about changes that my children went through. Is that something that I can talk about? Like we did fine with integration, and when my children went to school, it was different. They all got along and everything like that, but it was certain situations that they went through that was unfair. I remember when I took my children to this Christian day school, and my oldest son, and I didn't know this at the time, this boy was calling him the N-word, and he never complained. He never said anything about it. And then one day he said that this boy was teasing him and calling him the N-word. And he said, "But we're okay now." I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "We got to fighting." And after that, they became friends. But I said, "That's horrible. You're in a Christian school, and you got to fight." But anyway, everything turned out fine, and him and the other little boy became friends. But, those are some of the issues, I didn't go through, but here years later, my children went through. And I remember at that same school, my youngest son, the teacher came to me and said that he called her a name. And I said, I know that's not true. He's not going to, that's not him. And at the time, he had problems with his speech. So he said one thing, and she interpreted it to be something else. And she wanted to make a big deal out of it, so we got that resolved. And to me, that's the way it shouldn't have been. And that's when they were, 7, 6, at a young age, 8, something like that. And then I was talking to you before about my oldest son when he went to JMU, and he did this great presentation, and the professor gave him a B. And he called and said, I worked so hard on this, and I did a great job, and he gave me a B. I deserved an A out of it. So he just got a B, but the professor used his presentation as a guide for the other classmates to use. So things like that, really, really bothered me, because they shouldn't be going through any changes like that. And then when my son went to UVA, a professor again told him that he wasn't going to make it through the doctoral program, and he should just give up. And I'm saying that's horrible for a professor to tell, a young man trying to further his education. But again, he just used that as motivation, and now he has his PhD.
That's wonderful. I think, is it?